So hey, I'm Bridget. Um, like Kelly said, my journey was a tad started off a tad bit different. Me and my husband Torey met in 2014. Well, we met in 2013. Um, and he courted me for a year. When we first met, I was in OTA school and I was not thinking about no man. I had a plan. I was going to graduate and I was going to travel the country doing 13-week contracts, and that was going to be me. And lo and behold, that one day I went to the gym and met this guy, and you know, everything just kind of fell into place. We met in July of 2013. He proposed in July 2014, and we got married that September. Because we were like, we both broke, and it's like, we don't have no money for no wedding. So what we waiting on? So we went ahead and got married. Um, and we were married for 5 years before he passed, and it was a wonderful 5 years. He was truly a remarkable person, and I'm blessed to have had him for the time that I did have him. Um, he was a corrections officer at Central Prison here in Raleigh, and he worked 12-hour shifts. Worked 3 days off, two, worked 2 days off, three, that type of rotation. And so on the day that he passed, he was actually getting up that Sunday morning to go to work. And one of the things that made me angry after the fact, but you know, through my journey of healing, I had to accept he wasn't even supposed to go to work that day. It was overtime. It was mandatory overtime. And I had said to him, because they were making everybody come in for all this overtime, I was like, man, I just feel like we're two ships passing in the night. Like, I don't hardly get to see you, because when they worked 12-hour shifts. And that was if everything went well. Sometimes they had to work over if they had to take an inmate to the hospital and wait for their relief and all of those things. So he got up that Sunday morning. He had to be in line up at 6:45. Got up. We had a routine. He would get up, get his shower, get his clothes on and stuff. He would kiss me. At that time, we had an 18-month-old daughter. He would creep into her room and kiss her in her crib. Um, and then he would be on his way. And so one thing that he did every single morning without fail was he would text me when he got to work to say, I made it here, because he wasn't allowed to have a cell phone inside of the prison. And so that Sunday morning, I had fell back off to sleep. And when I woke up, I looked at my phone. I was like, this joker didn't text me. Oh, he's slipping. What's going on with that? Next thing I know, it was almost literally within a couple of minutes, my doorbell rang. And it was a little after 8. And I said, who is this at my door this early on a Sunday morning? And so I go downstairs, I peeking through the blinds, and I see um it's a law enforcement car. And I'm like, what's going on? So I open up the door, they're standing there, and I see his commanding officer. So now I know something is going on. And they're like, are you Bridget Rasco? And I was like, what happened? What happened to my husband? Just tell me what happened to my husband. And they was like, man, we need you to unlock the door, because I had my storm door and I had my glass door. And it's like, man, we just need you. We need to come in. I was like, just tell me what happened to my husband. I don't want to hear nothing else. Just tell me where is he? What hospital is he at? Because in my mind, I'm thinking he got to work. He worked on death row. So I'm thinking he got into it with an inmate, something happened, he got hurt, and they're coming to take me to where he is. I'm already calculating in my head, who can I get to come over to get the baby? I need to get some clothes on. I need to get to where he is. And so they said, "Man, we just need you to open up the door, please." So I opened up the door and I'm like, "Come and get him. Where is he? What's going on?" And he was like, "Is there somewhere we can sit?" And I'm having this sense of urgency of what happened to my husband. I don't want to hear um all the other things. I want to know what happened to him. And so they tell me, they said they sit me down and they say, "Ma'am, at approximately um 6:10 this morning, your husband was involved in a car accident and it was fatal." And I said, I'm sorry, my tiny human. Come here. What is it? Mommy's in the middle of something.
Mommy,
What do you need? Because mommy's in the middle of something.
it's cold downstairs.
Okay, get a blanket and I'll be down there in a little bit, okay?
To warm me up?
Yes.
Yay.
Okay. I'm so sorry about that. Um, you know, parenthood doesn't take a vacation. But so they tell me he didn't make it. And as soon as they said he didn't make it, it was just white noise. I didn't hear anything else after that. And I just sat there. I was just in complete shock of what? What? Like, no, 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 no. And it took me a minute to come around before I was even able to speak. And the officer there was like, "Is there anybody that we can call to come be with you? Like, just, we're not going to leave you here by yourself." And so one of my neighbors up the street that we had gotten very close friends with and stuff, I pointed the officer to her house and they went and knocked on her door and explained to her what had happened. And where my living room sits, I can kind of see the street. And all I can remember is seeing her booking it down the street to my house. She comes in the door and I just immediately made eye contact with her and I just start crying. And I just fall apart. And she came and helped me get myself together. And honestly, things just kind of turned into a blur. There's not a whole lot that I remember verbatim. I just know that I had to call, I had to call his mother. I had to call his sister. I had to call his brother. That is not a phone call that you ever want to make to somebody, to tell them that their child is no longer with us. And it was just a fog. His family lived in Virginia. They were about 3 hours away, and they got down here in record time. I had to call my sister and my father to let them know what had happened. And everybody came. Everybody came. They were here. I could not tell you probably all the people that came through my home in the coming days after that. Um, the accident itself was a head-on collision. The young man that hit my husband had fell asleep at the wheel, crossed the median, and hit him head on, and he died at the scene. And it was just all surreal. I'm like, at 6 o'clock this morning, I was a happily married woman with a baby. Life is great. We laughing and carrying on the night before and everything. And now at 6:10, unbeknownst to me, my husband is gone. And I get a knock at the door at 8 something in the morning telling me, "Your whole life just changed. Everything that you knew before this is no longer the reality." And it took a minute for that to settle in. And then I kind of went into survival mode. I didn't have time to really process what had happened. At that point, it was, he's gone. I still have a child to raise. I got to get this together. I have a funeral to plan. I got to pick out a suit. I got to pick out a gravesite. I got to pick out a cat. It just went into business mode almost. Because things had to get done. And I was the one that was going to have to do them. And so um, within a matter of, that was on a Sunday, by Monday, I was already making phone calls. Like Sister Battle mentioned earlier, Sister Dublin, she is in the funeral business. So she was a huge help in kind of guiding me to what I needed to do, because I had no idea where to start, what to do, who to contact or anything. So they were a huge help in getting all of that facilitated and pointing me in the right direction. And so he passed that Sunday. We had the funeral that Friday. I think it was. We had a funeral that Friday at our church there in Raleigh at South Central. And, people were saying, well, why are you having the funeral so quick? And I was like, I don't want to drag this out. I don't want to still be in this space 2 and 3 weeks from now. And thankfully, we did have the forethought, the foresight to get life insurance and, plan for the woulda, couldas. Had no idea that it would come this soon, that I would be making those plans this soon, but it happened. And so it was a shock. I'm like, I was 35 at the time. I said, I am 35 years old. I have an 18-month-old daughter. And I really, everything in me wanted to crawl in my bed, pull the sheets over my head, bawl my eyes out, and just fall apart. And the one constant was, I have a child. She's already lost one parent. She cannot lose the other. I have to pull myself together. I will have my mental breakdown later, but right now, my daughter needs me. And that's what helped me get through and to get up every day, because she still needed me. And I couldn't give up. Things went so fast and such fast procession that I really didn't have time to grieve. And that's a whole nother part of, once the phone calls stop coming, once people kind of go back to their lives and they're not stopping by as much, and people are settling back into their norm, and now you're left to adjust to this new norm, and you're just sitting there. It wasn't the people coming by, it wasn't the constant presence of people in my home. It hit me in the silence when it would be 7:30 and I know he's not walking through that door. When it was time for dinner and I'm the only one sitting at the table. That's when it hits you. That's when you're like, wow, this really happened. This is really what my life looks like now. And it was a huge adjustment. But I thank God that he gave me the strength and he surrounded me with the people I needed to get me through that. I tell people all the time, it was not my own strength and understanding that got me through that. I am not even going to be that brazen and arrogant. God got me through that with the people that he sent into my life to be there for me and to be there for my daughter. Because you don't get through something like that by yourself, whether it's in Sister Battle's, situation where you knew you had a good inkling that it was coming, or in my situation where it was very sudden. You need a support system. You need people around you, praying for you, being there for you. I had a best friend that she would literally just come and sit on the couch with me. No words were spoken. No, how you feeling? She would literally just drive all the way from Goldsboro. Oh, sorry. She would drive all the way from Goldsboro just to come and sit on my couch with me and hold my hand. And if I needed to cry, I cried. If I needed to scream, I screamed. And there was no judgment there. It was, I'm here for you. And that meant a lot. So, yeah, that within a matter of a couple of hours, my entire life changed. So,
Wow.